Yo, what is up, y'all? It's coming back again here tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from the night. I'm gonna be real transparent. I'm completely exhausted. I did a live stream earlier with Bleacher Report through the Bleacher Report app. I'm gonna be doing another one Thursday. If you want to check that out, I'm sure I'll tweet out a link, so go follow me on Twitter. But also, a lot of watching these games, a lot of these late night recap videos, so there's a possibility there won't be one tomorrow and the streak may end. But for right now, we're gonna keep this thing going. Go ahead and leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy to show your support for the channel. Also hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. And as always, go ahead and comment down below your biggest takeaways from tonight and your team season so far. There's been a lot of great basketball that we've got to talk about. 4 games tonight and 1 game in particular that I really want to go into as a Thunder fan. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Starting off, of course, with Oklahoma City versus the Los Angeles Clippers. This is the first of 2 back-to-back games that they're going to play against each other. And in this one, the Clippers had no Kawhi, no Paul George, or Marcus Morris. So they were bound to struggle offensively, and they really did. Their leading scorer was Luke Kennard with 15 points. Everyone else kind of struggled. Norman Powell and Reggie Jackson combined for 7 of 27 shooting from the field. But one guy I really want to highlight for the Clippers before we get into the Thunder is Zubac. Zubac was incredible, and I feel like he's long gone as one of the most underrated big men in the league. Tonight he had 14 rebounds, 2 assists, and 7 blocks. He was blocking guys that I never see get blocked. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, one of the most dangerous players in the league, especially attacking the basket, who really never gets blocked. Zubac was giving him great contests every single time and got a couple blocks on him. He had some really solid block attempts of other guys at the rim that are highly athletic. He, I feel like, just kind of flies under the radar a lot of the time. So I want to give him a shout out quickly at this beginning portion of the video because what I saw from him tonight was really impressive. He was the big reason why they didn't get blown out for like 30. They ended up losing this game by a decent margin and were down by 20 for a lot of it. But he was a big reason why they started to creep back into things towards the end, albeit it ended up in a losing effort. But of course, as you can tell from the title and thumbnail of this video, the guy that I want to talk about is my personal favorite player in the league, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Coming into the season, I said that Shai would not only be an all-star, but that I felt like he had the possibility to make a leap to an all-NBA caliber player. He should have been an all-star already at this point. He should have been one a couple years ago over Mike Conley. Don't get me into that, I'll start ranting. But I believe this is the year he's finally going to get that all-star recognition that he has long deserved. But the way that he's been playing so far, there's a chance he might even get all-NBA recognition. The biggest thing that's going to be an obstacle to him getting that, though, is, of course, the play of the team. You know, will we have a good enough record? Because all-NBA does kind of factor that in. But regardless, Shai is playing like an all-NBA caliber player through the start of the season and playing like a superstar. He has been completely dominant on both sides of the court, not just offensively where he's always been a monster, but defensively he's looked good too. Tonight he had 33 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks on 50% shooting, knocking down 2 threes on 2 attempts, and hitting 9 of 9 free throws. He was efficient, he was scoring from everywhere, doing everything for this team. He really put the team on his back, and through these first few games, it feels like Shai has a different energy about him. It almost feels like he knows how good he is, and he's almost in that killer instinct mode, where every single time he sees a player in front of him, he sees them as food. He knows that nobody can stop him, and not only that, but he continues to expand his arsenal beyond what we've seen. Shai has always been one of the best finishers around the rim over these last few seasons. Statistically, eye test, everything proves that. Shai is a guy that you can rarely stop when he's attacking the rim. He's so crafty. He's a very slithery type player is a word that I would use to describe him. He's very smooth and calculated. You never quite know when he's going to go up. He goes for scoop layups, reverses. Basically, when Shai attacks the basket, there's very little chance that you're going to get a stop and he's going to come away with 2 points. But a big thing that he's added to his game in particular this season has been the mid-range jumper. He's always had kind of a mid-range game, but this season, he's going to it more than ever. And not only that, but he's more effective than ever before with his mid-range shots, and he's taking a good bit of them. Tonight, he may have shot more middies than I've probably ever seen him shoot before, and easily through this 3-game stretch of the season, he's taking more mid-ranges very clearly. It's clearly something that he wants to implement into his game to make him more dangerous, and it's been incredible how great he's been. And he's not just doing it in one way. It's not just, pull up at the elbow or something like that. back every single time. He's doing it in such a variety of ways that keeps the defense guessing. They don't know how he's going to attack them in the mid-range, and it makes him all the more dangerous, especially when he's doing it as effectively as he's done it so far. He's doing things like pulling up from the baseline. That's one of his favorites, is a turnaround midi at the baseline. He can pull up at the elbow. He had one today where he pulled up in the mid-range. It looked a lot like the Russell Westbrook of old in his OKC days. He's had a lot where he turns around right below the free throw line. He hit one today over Zubac's outstretched arm, and because he has such a long wingspan and he's, I believe, 6'6", it's hard to block him in that spot. He creates a lot of space. He fades away a lot and has a high release point, so you can't really block the shot. He's going to get it up over you, and most of the time he's finishing that shot. And it's such an elite counter for him because, like I said, everybody knows him as the guy that's going to destroy you at the rim. Teams really pack the paint against Shai, so now that he can pull up from mid-range, it makes it a lot more difficult to guard him, because if you pack in, he's going to pull up from mid, and he's just going to hit almost every single time, or he's just going to turn around and shoot over a guy on a fading mid-range. There's not much you can do, and so it makes him so much more dangerous, and that's part of why he's averaging 31 points per game through his first 3 games. This is something we saw last season too. After the All-Star break, Shai was averaging well over 30 points per game for, I believe, an 8 or 10 game stretch before he ended up losing the rest of his season due to an injury. Shai was electric in that portion of the year, and that was a portion that made me really feel like this could be his massive breakout year where he truly starts to take the league over and prove to a lot of people that he is a franchise player. This has been something I've been saying for a while. As a Thunder fan, I've been saying he is the guy that can be the best player on our team when we're competing for a championship, and he's 100% doing that. He's more efficient. He's a better playmaker than people give him credit for too. Shai could average like 7 assists per game if teammates were knocking down shots. We're still not a great shooting team. I believe tonight we were actually the worst shooting team ever, or at least in recent history, to win a game by double digits. I think we shot like 15% from deep. Very Lakers-esque of us. But the fact that we can win in those ways, and it really just goes back to Shai. The fact that we shot 15% from 3, Shai probably could have had like 12, 14 assists in this game if guys were knocking down shots at just a decent margin. And we're not going to shoot this bad every night, but as the team continues to get better, those playmaking numbers are going to rise. His assist total is going to look higher. He's a better rebounder than people give him credit for. He gets behind box outs. He finds his way into the lanes and grabs boards, and he creates second chance opportunities. He can push it in transition. He has incredible handles. He can create space through a step back, through a sidestep. He really likes a sidestep 3, fading away like we talked about. There's like no way to stop him. It's unbelievable what he's capable of doing. I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't know if he's going to average 31 points per game all season. That would be surprising. But I wouldn't be surprised if he averages like 26.5, 27 points per game this entire year. That's how impressive he's been so far. It doesn't look like it's just some insane hot stretch. This looks very replicable for him. It's something that he's done in the past. He's just doing it now with more consistency and frequency, and I think that just makes him such a dangerous player. As players around him continue to get better, and now that he's able to counter his drives with his mid-range buckets, it makes it a guessing game when you're guarding Shai. Do you stop the pull at mid-range, or do you let him just drive right past you to the basket? You really have to pick your poison there. One last stat I want to bring up is that 87% of Shai's shots are unassisted, so he's creating at such a high level for himself. And in addition, 45% of his shots are considered tightly contested by NBA.com stats, and of those tightly contested shots, he's knocking down 62%. It doesn't matter if you contest him, he's still going to knock it down, and it's just truly a testament to how good Shai has been so far. He's taking over this league. He's going to be one of the guys that everyone is going to know the name of pretty soon, and if you don't already, buy some stock in Shai, and that's just not as a biased Thunder fan, that's me telling you as a friend. Sleep on Shai at your own risk, and I would highly recommend that you don't, or he's going to cook your favorite team. One last OKC note, I want to give a shout out to Trey Mann. He was one of my biggest breakout candidates for the team this season. He had 25 points tonight, knocked down a couple of threes, although his three ball hasn't been falling so much this season, but he shot over I think it was 36, 37% from deep last season, so I'm not super worried about that. What's really been promising though is his finishing around the basket. He's looking better than ever on that end, making some incredibly tough floaters, tough finishes through contact. That's the big step for him. I'm not worried about him as a shooter. If he can continue to finish at a high level, the sky's the limit for Trey Mann. He looks better defensively too. He drew a couple charges today, and he talked about how that's been a big emphasis for not just him, but everyone else around him. I talked about how Shai looks improved as a defender too. It feels like the whole team is buying in on that end, buying in on this defensive identity, and it's really exciting as a Thunder fan to see this group of really young players truly start to lock in as defenders. It's awesome. I'm really excited about the future of this team between Shai, Trey, Giddey, who did not play tonight due to an ankle sprain. Hopefully he's able to come back soon. Just so many players to be excited about on this roster. I can't wait for the future as a Thunder fan. In other news, the Pelicans beat the Mavericks without Zion or Brandon Ingram. It was pretty much an all-around team effort with 8 Pelicans scoring in double figures, but one guy I really want to highlight is Trey Murphy III. He's really good. He had 22 points. I believe he shot perfect. I don't know if he missed one right at the end. I forgot to check. But I know that he was perfect for most of this game. He's a player out of UVA where I went to school, so I'm rooting for him hard, of course. But also, he's just really a slept-on player, I feel like. He was one of the reasons why I was really high on the Pelicans coming into the season. He feels like a perfect 3-and-D player to fit next to Zion and Brandon Ingram, but he also is able to create more space for himself than people realize. He has more upside than I think people give him credit for, and it was cool to see him have the chance to go ahead and take over tonight as their leading scorer against a really good Mavericks team. Then, of course, on the Mavericks side, Luka went off as he typically does. 37, 7, and 11. He missed a 3 at the buzzer to try and give them the game. One of his typical step back looks. It was a decent look, very heavily contested, but for Luka, those are the shots he hits anyways. Dinwiddie had 24. He looked pretty good. Christian Wood had 23 and 6. Continues to look like the leader for the 6th Man of the Year award if they keep bringing him off the bench. But this is now 2 games that they've lost this season that they probably shouldn't have, falling to 1 and 2. They destroyed the Grizzlies. They always seem to have the Grizzlies number, but they lost to this Pelicans team, like I said, without their top 2 players in Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. But the Pelicans do have a ton of depth. I'll give them credit for that. It wasn't just that the Mavs lost. The Pelicans came in and took this one, but then they also lost to the Phoenix Suns when they had like a 25 6-point lead. The supporting cast honestly just needs to be a bit better. Around Luka, around Christian Wood, those two have really been playing well. Spencer Dinwiddie's had his moments, but outside of them, a lot of guys have struggled up to this point. I'm sure they'll find their rhythm. The Mavericks are one of those teams that's very high variance because they shoot so many threes, so many guys that if they're all on, you're going to get destroyed by 50, but if they're all off, they're going to lose by like 20. It's hard to really predict the Mavericks on any given night, and that's part of their problem. They've got to find some consistency, and maybe they will, but these 2 losses are a bit worrying. Speaking of the Suns, they blew out the Warriors tonight by 29 points. Devin Booker once again looks to be in MVP conversations. He had 34 points. He and Klay Thompson also got into it this one, which led to Klay getting ejected. I've never seen Klay that angry, so I don't know what Devin Booker was talking about, but whatever it was, it got under his skin. He waved to the fans. He was saying stuff to the bench. I don't know what happened with Klay there. Maybe he said something in the post-game press conference to really outline what went on, but all in all, it just seemed kind of competitive. These 2 teams, every time they play, it feels like there's some kind of beef, some competition. I'd love to see a playoff series between the 2 squads because it feels like every time they play, mostly the games are pretty good, and this one was great up until the second half when the Suns really started to run away with things, and it was a big team effort. Bridges had 17, Ayton had 16 and 14, Chris Paul had 19, 7, and 9, and Jock Londale, who has been really good so far, has really impressed me as a backup big. He had 17 and 7 in this one, a really great find by them. All in all, I like what I've seen from the Suns so far. I like how they're getting different guys involved in the offense. It was something I said they needed to do heading into this season. They've done a pretty good job of that so far, and so all around, pretty great stuff from the Suns through their first few games. On the Warriors side, really the thing I want to highlight has been their defense. They have been really bad on that end. It's a bit worrying. I think they'll eventually figure it out because it's Golden State. It's always what they do, but tonight they gave up 134 points. They gave up 125 to the Kings the other night and 128 to the Nuggets. That's almost 3 130-point games in their first 4. If you're a championship level squad, you can't be giving up that many points. I'm sure they'll turn it around. I'm sure they'll figure things out, but all in all, it's a little bit worrying to start the season. And finally, the Washington Wizards blew out the Detroit Pistons. Kyle Kuzma had 25 and 6. He's been really good to start this year. He was great last year too, and coming into this season, he was a player that I've been keeping an eye on because I felt like if Washington started to play pretty well, he could maybe be a guy that gets some all-star buzz. They already have Bradley Beal, so it might be hard for Washington to get 2 all-stars, but I do think Kuzma is going to get some of that conversation, maybe even be a most improved player type guy. I feel like what he did for Washington really flew under the radar last year as a great rebounder, a better offensive player than people give him credit for, a better defender than people give him credit for. Kuzma's just a really underrated player in this league, and I love what I've seen from him so far. He's been a high-level player ever since he got to Washington. Washington. Kristaps Porzingis, meanwhile, had 20 and 7. He's been pretty solid up to this point. Bradley Beal missed a lot of this game due to back tightness, but it didn't matter because, like I said, Washington completely destroyed Detroit. The Pistons side of things, really what I wanted to highlight is that Cade Cunningham has struggled a lot. He once again failed to score efficiently in this game. It seems like there's some growing pains for this young team, him and Jaden Ivey trying to adjust. But Cade also started really slow last season scoring the ball. He was getting decent point totals, but it was always inefficiently. He couldn't knock down a three for the longest time. Eventually, by the end of the year, he completely figured it out. Maybe it's a similar case, or it might be more prolonged due to, like I said, just some growing pains with a young team. Regardless, I'm sure Cade's going to be fine. He's Cade Cunningham. We've seen what he can do in the past. He's going to turn things around, but for right now, it's just something to keep an eye on with him. Bojan Bogdanovic was pretty solid in this one. He's looked pretty good so far as a Detroit Piston, so we'll look to see if he can keep that up as a veteran guy that they traded for kind of out of the blue to help out this team and try and maybe make a play-in push. Early on, it's not going too well, but there's plenty of time to turn things around. That's all I want to say about the games tonight. As always, I really appreciate y'all supporting these videos. The channel has been growing in a way that has never grown before. We're breaking records constantly. So I want to thank y'all so much. It means the world to me. I'm going to keep getting these videos out to y'all whenever I can. Like I said, chance there won't be one tomorrow, but if there's not, then there will be a video during the day to make up for that. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But all in all, I appreciate y'all watching. Thank you so much for the support. I hope you guys have a great night. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.